Wait a minute. Cut.
What the
Cut.
hell?
All right. Got an explanation. We usually have the guest cards in the background, but for the duration of this episode, we're not going to have a Porsche in the background.
Come on, man.
The reason why? It's pretty simple. Well, the Porsche that we was going to feature is a vintage Porsche. It's air cooled. And with Georgia having 100-degree weather days nowadays, and plus we filmed this on a Thursday, and it's school day traffic, so we figured it was best for the vehicle not to be out in those conditions. So we decided to bring that car in for, when it's cooler. But anyway, we're still going to take the episode, but he's going to bring the car over later, and we'll probably do another little segment then. Anyway,
just roll the intro.
Roll intro. Welcome to this week's episode of Gears and Bills with Baron. I'm the Baron Grove. Everybody know me in the car scene as LB. Today I got a special guest, another one, Mike Thies of Southeast Wheels Events.
Here's the beer.
Here's the beer. Good to see you, man. How you been?
Oh, man, it's been great to see you. It's been too long.
It's been a long time, been years, a couple of years.
COVID really played hell with a lot of our stuff, but we're back and we're doing it well.
That's correct. We're busy because I'm a busy guy. You're a busy guy. The owner, the founder of Southeast Wheels Events.
Yep.
And also, you run the Georgia Hot Rodders.
Well, I'm the membership chairman of the Georgia Street Rod Association.
Georgia Street Rod Association, that's right.
So here I'm ready to plug them, I guess. But the thing about our struggle right now is that it's an old organization. It's really an association of clubs. And so people think about it as a club, and it's really not. It's more of an advocacy for the hobby in general, all cars. But the name, which comes from 30-some years or maybe 40 years, is Street Rod. Well, from our point of view, Street Rod is any car on the street, or any car for that matter.
Right.
But people hear it as a hot rod.
Yeah.
So they kind of put us in the group. So we got to think of, I suggest that we rethink the name a little bit to reflect more of what we do, which is we raise money for scholarships to bring kids in from the tech schools.
Fantastic.
So we got scholarships at Southern Tech, Southern Georgia Tech, and Lanier Tech, and we're now looking at some other programs. We're part of the SEMA effort to get federal legislation to protect the hobby. And they call it RPM. I'm not exactly sure what the acronym means, but basically it's to have federal legislation that allows for our cars to operate without, eliminating carbon footprint stuff.
Right.
Our cars don't create a lot of carbon.
Absolutely, especially nowadays.
We don't drive them.
We don't exactly.
I mean, if we drive a car, if I put 2,000-3,000 miles on that 62 Porsche, that's a lot.
Right.
And the Packard, I don't drive that 20 miles because by the time I'm done with that, I'm exhausted.
That's right.
I mean, it's funny because I drive around in a new Mustang or I have a 97 Corvette, beautiful 6-speed car, pretty rare. It's like driving in your living room. In the car, your power steering and power brakes and,
Basically drives itself.
You got traction control. I mean, all sorts of stuff on this thing with the computer.
Right.
And you could drive that across the country and you're not worn out. Then I go into my 79 Targa, and it's a little more work. There's no power steering. There's no power brakes.
Yeah.
I think the only power thing we have is the windows, and they work sometimes.
That's how it is with those older vehicles, man.
And then I go to the 62 Cabriolet. It's a 62 Porsche.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot harder work. But then you go to a 37 Packard. That's like driving a Model A.
Yeah.
I mean, you're on the road. You're muscling that car the whole way.
Right.
And so you drive that 20, 25 miles. And
Mm-hmm.
by the time you get home, you're ready for a nap.
Absolutely.
Even if I were younger, I'd be ready for a nap.
Right.
But it's
yeah.
It's just the way the collector car hobby is.
Right.
But anyway, I digress with the Georgia Street Rod Association. The plug for it is gsra.com. Take a look at it. We have an awful lot going on. And for a $25 donation, you're helping save the hobby.
That's right. That's right. And you've been in the hobby for quite a while.
Since I was 12.
Since you was 12. Long history of cars.
Well, my first car was a Model A pickup. 12 years old with my brother. And, he'd say it's his car, but I'll say it was mine. Obviously we shared it. And he drove me around. And I was allowed to drive.
Yeah, that's at a young age, at 12.
But my first car that I drove as mine in the road was a 1934 Tudor sedan. And I got that because I could fit in it.
Yeah.
The pickups are little. By the time I was 16, I was bigger than my brother and couldn't hardly drive the car.
Oh, wow.
It was too small.
Wow, yeah.
Unless we modified it or something. You don't want to do that to a collectible.
No.
So the fun part of my Model A is that a lot of the girls would rather ride with me than their crazy boyfriends. Because their cars were all muscled up and mine was a stock Model A that would go 45 miles an hour top end. So
Imagine that.
So that was fun.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. So how many cars you think you have now? You're down to what?
Right now I have the 37 Packard. I have the 62 Porsche. Here, I'll show you that.
I'll put a picture up somewhere too.
Yeah, but these are bought for you. And this is another thing. That's the Packard.
This is the Packard.
And that's a painting. It's not a photograph.
Wow, that's a good painting.
My friend Larry Gardner publishes a magazine as a painter.
Huh.
And every one of the covers is a painting. And I get the painting put on my wall. And he puts it on the cover.
Fantastic. That's a beautiful painting.
And that's the 62. And that's the 79 Targa.
And you have both of these?
This one is now sold and in Spain.
This one is sold and in Spain.
Yep.
So too bad for the guys that's looking.
But this guy, I'm keeping till live forever. That's my dream car.
And he's keeping this one, so no luck on that one either.
And here's this is the most recent copy, just for you.
Okay.
And what it is basically pictures of all the different car shows. I call it like, where's Waldo? People get it, they go, it's my car in here. It's that one.
Yeah. Good stuff.
There's, probably 6 or 8, maybe more car shows, several articles.
This is
here's one on a
good material. And this is all the local shows, or
all Northeast Georgia, or
South
Georgia.
North Georgia.
Yeah, southern Atlanta and north.
Okay. Speaking of car shows, Southeast Wheels.
Right.
For the unaware, because I know this podcast reaches a lot of people, but for the people that's not in the car scene,
well, the ones who haven't caught up with Southeast Wheels events.
Exactly. SoutheastWheelsEvents.com. Been around forever. It's basically it's where you go. It's the go-to site to find out what's going on any given weekend in the Southeast car show related. You will find something to do on Southeast Wheels Events. And also there's a
UK version.
Yeah. It's we don't call it Southeast. It's called
UK Wheels Events.
UK Wheels Events, and so over in the UK, people in the UK, we got you covered too. Any given weekend, any given day, there's a calendar of events on there that you can find these events, and I'll tell you, it's a gold amount of information when it comes to car shows, car information in general, just things to do. This man is a gold mine of information when it comes to cars. The hobby. I mean, I'm gonna tell you one thing. Here in Atlanta, Georgia, if he's not at your show, you're not putting on the show.
Oh, come on.
That's how I see it.
There's a lot of shows.
It's a lot of shows.
They'll have 60 shows. Seriously, there's some weekends during the season.
Yeah.
That there will be 60 car shows in North Georgia from Chattanooga to Macon, and sometimes more. And then if you take a look at Alabama, the Carolinas, Tennessee,
Right.
Florida.
Right.
Coming up is Cruising the Coast in October.
That's right.
We'll have,
going through Biloxi.
how many cars they get? 20,000?
Exactly. It's I came through that a couple of years ago, and it was ridiculous. I mean, the amount of riders.
And then you got Turkey Rod Run. I mean, the South is just the center.
Full of events.
Yeah.
That's
People
correct.
think of Southern California being the car scene.
Right.
We compete with them any day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the new California, right?
Yeah. Caffeine and Octane has now moved to Kennesaw.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be at the town square every first Sunday morning,
Right.
starting about 8 o'clock. Well, I'm there a lot earlier. And we started that with just a handful of guys at the Panera Bread in East Cobb
That's right.
back in 2006. And about that whole crowd, as far as I know, and this all when this goes, we'll have 3,000 cars
Mm-hmm.
and 20 to 25,000 spectators.
Any given Sunday. I mean,
first Sunday of every month.
Any given first Sunday.
And by noon, it's over.
So,
It's magic.
exactly.
And
Right.
what's really I love about that is there's no politics,
Mm-hmm.
there's no conflicts, there's no nationality, there's no gender, there's nothing. Everybody's there
Nothing.
just about the cars.
That's it. It's a beautiful thing.
It's American
It's-
culture of the most intrinsic kind.
Right.
And they come in with their kids in strollers and the kids in motorized bikes and cars
Mm-hmm.
and dogs. I'll bring the dogs through. I keep a case of water there for the dogs.
That's
And,
right.
and it's magic.
Mm-hmm.
I challenge anybody to come there and not walk away without a smile.
Absolutely.
And you'll see anything and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Craziest stuff comes in there.
Wow. That's just amazing.
And a lot of people come looking for just high-end cars, which they're there.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have a whole lot for exotics, a whole lot
Right.
for Porsches,
Right.
a whole lot for Mustangs. There's all of that, and then a whole section that's just an eclectic classic.
That's right.
And I've seen the craziest stuff come in here, from everything from drag racers to
Yeah. Yeah.
rat rods, and
Everything. I mean,
it's truly amazing.
it's everything. I mean, everybody goes, and like he said, everybody goes for to see the most rarest thing out there. I've seen Citroen DS's out there. I mean, just cars that you don't see on a regular. You get to see them up close and personal there, and like you said, it's like magic. And 12 o'clock, and it's gone.
Someone come in with a brand new Bentley or a Bugatti. We had a Bugatti show on. I'm ready to see a Bugatti.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because I was there one day. I had the little red race car. I had a little red Porsche race car.
Right.
Well, I sold that to a guy in South Carolina who's very happy to have it.
Little Red.
Little Red.
I remember that car.
Yeah. So I was there with Little Red, which was basically a garage built race car.
Mm-hmm.
And right next to it was a 1989 Speedster, Porsche Speedster. Absolutely immaculate. Probably a $250,000, $300,000 car.
Really?
And the kids are climbing all over my car and taking pictures and everything else. And I'm saying, guys, this is a toy. You really got to see what's going on over here.
Exactly.
Some guy brings in that car like, in the last 10 years, I've seen one. That was it.
So that was
next
it.
to me.
That is amazing, man. That's amazing. So you had a 911 one time, a cabriolet.
Yeah, I had a 911. I've had a number over the years of those, but the most famous one was a 79.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm sorry, it wasn't. The 79 is the target. It was the 87,
87.
and it was a turbo look,
Okay, was it the white
the
one?
white one
Right. I try to put a picture
with
up.
the blue top.
That was a beautiful car, man. I
was a
remember
beautiful
that.
car.
I remember that car. We rode in it.
Yeah,
Good story. We were at car meet, one of the local car meets, and it was the coolest thing happened. I was there, and it was all these kids. They were there. It was late one. I think it was a Saturday night or something, and it could have been Friday. Could have been Friday, Saturday. One of those nights, but it was one of those nights where everybody's just out. It was hot, and
he turned to me. You was in the Porsche. He was in the 911. He said, "These kids are hungry. We need to get them something to eat." And I was like, "Let's get them something to eat." So we jumped in the Porsche and we went into McDonald's and he were like, "Yeah, let me get like, I don't know, God, 30, 40 hamburgers." And they looked at him like, "Huh?" I said, "Yeah, 30, 40 hamburgers." I said, "Yeah, get the man. We got some hungry kids out here." And so we took it back to the meet and handed them out. And the kids were like, this is cool. But this is what the scene is like here. Is like one big family here, and he's like the godfather of it. I mean,
well, the fun of it was, that, I mean, when I first started showing up these collections, because these are basically they were really meets, cruise-ins.
Right.
And a lot of them were young tuner kids. You know, they were just their first car, and they're making it street ready and making them hopped up. And then we had a lot of other sports cars coming in, a lot of Mustangs. And then
Want to stay with mates? Shout out.
Oh, Mustangs are so cool. So but they were young. You know, it's funny because I know these guys now, they're 30 something and they got kids and so on, but they were 19, 20, 25-year-old kids, first jobs, first career, first cars. And they get out there just having a good time. A lot of them are still single. And I show up and they go, "Who's this guy? Is he a narc?"
Yeah, right.
I'm too old to be a narc, guys. Forget it. So they got used to me, and then I'd start bringing in some other of the old hot rod guys. And we even got the National Cruisers to show up over there. Remember, we would be down at the Sonic?
That's right. There was a Sonic. That's right.
And the old National Cruisers would come up and hang out. And they'd sell some real, those guys built some real hot rods.
Absolutely.
And the, I'm still a member. I pay dues. I never go hardly. But what was neat about it was the kids kind of got used to the idea that there's a whole lot more going on. And of course, you were there. You weren't that young, so there was a middle-aged group anyway. I mean, you were younger than me, but you weren't as young as they were.
Right.
So it started growing into a much more eclectic thing, and I think that's when people can realize that this isn't about division; it's all about unity.
That's it.
In any car. I mean, we'll even put up with EVs.
That's right.
Because they go like hell.
That's true. That's true. Speaking of which, I read your article. You had put out an article.
Oh, really?
And it was about the basically the state of the car culture right now, the hobby, basically. Enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. We share the same views when it comes to vehicles. Not like biased towards one or the other. Everybody, is enthusiasts for everything, including EVs. And with that being said, I mean, we're touching on EVs. You touched on EVs, and you said that how people are resto modding the vehicles, and you mentioned how they're putting in the doing the Tesla swaps and things of that nature, and so I guess you're starting to see more and more of that, which is a good thing. It is a good thing because it's kind of expanding the hobby. The hobby is towards the field that people that might not be a gearhead, but they know how to work with computers, or they know how to and you gotta have a little bit of gearhead with you on that. But I'm talking about like with the engine swaps or the swaps to that conversion. But people are digging into these computer systems, whereas the average back in the days, the average gearhead was like, I'm staying away from the computer operated cars. Everything's going to be like straight carbureted,
Analog.
The digital age is upon us, and so it's taking us into the new generation, I think, and I think that's a great thing, especially if it's paying homage to the past, culture with the analog. Basically, it's kind of giving tribute to that, but with a twist, and I think that's a real cool thing. So, and I know that you're an appraiser. He's actually one of the best top appraisers around. So, yeah, do you see many conversions like that while you're out appraising these things? And
yes, it's interesting. Some of the things we're saying. The EV conversions are still pretty new because they're very expensive to do them right. But I've seen some interesting things. One of the least one was It was I think it was a Leaf. It's a Honda Leaf, am I right?
It's a Nissan Leaf.
Nissan Leaf.
Right.
That the batteries were dead.
Mm.
And a friend of mine I think is pretty cool. He had 4 kids, and every time the kid got of age, he would buy a car and they would fix it up together. But they had to get into the car. The car had to be part of their DNA. And I don't remember what the other 3 were, but this is the last kid, and he got this Leaf, which was a dead electric car, and he regenerated the batteries. And apparently, I mean, he's enough of a techie. He's a computer guy.
Yeah.
If you drain them down to nothing, I mean, really drain them, I think it takes some time to do that.
Yeah.
And I made some way of doing it. Again, it's not my wheelhouse, but he was able to regenerate 80% of those batteries.
Yeah.
And of course, he replaced the other 20%. And this kid got his first car. So I mean, you see that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's a rare one, but it's there for people if they really want to try it. And I'm sure there's stuff on YouTube that show you how to do it.
Yeah.
And the I mean, YouTube is awesome.
Yeah, YouTube University.
Here you are, YouTuber. So and I've come across that. I think one of the more interesting one was a Jaguar that somebody, it was an XJ8, I think, or 6, I forget which model, but anyway, engine blown, they put an electric motor on it. And it was a big project for him.
Wow.
It was a lot of work and much more money than he expected. But
yeah, it did get expensive. So
but I think those things are starting coming down. You have people that start packaging things.
But you have a crate.
Yeah, and like you can go out there and buy a package with a frame and the engine and everything else,
and the gearbox and the whole nine.
Yeah, Mustang 2 frame and an LS1 engine that you can put a C10 body, 55 C10 body on. Yeah, and they all come as a package.
Yeah,
there's a guy right over here in Mableton that builds them. So I'm sure that they're going to come out with these boxed up sets for turning some car.
Oh yeah, of course.
But I mean, the first one I ran into was a 911. Got to be about 6 or 8 years ago. Somebody in Marietta did it, and they were selling it at that time for about $20,000. It was probably twice that now.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, for something that usually like Porsches.
Well, I was counting my pennies. I was thinking maybe I could pull it together.
Yeah.
Too many cars at the time.
At the time. Yeah. Speaking of that, I mean, like with the conversions and stuff. I mean, like you go to SEMA and you start seeing these, like you were saying.
The SEMA builds are incredible.
Right. You're starting to see these kits that they put together and prepackaged. You just drop in.
You'll have vendors all over selling that stuff.
Right. Yeah. Right. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny. Locally, we did really well. Dan Duffy built the Dirty Martini that won at Good Guys and got Top Builder Award at SEMA. And that was built right over here. And he lives in Marietta. They built it in Big Oak and this side of Alabama. And so we got the national award winner right here. And then we have in Dahlonega, we have the Gold Digger, which was a SEMA winner. And that's owned
by... That's right, I remember that car.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that on the
That's owned by a woman who has the gold mine up there. So it's a beautiful car.
Wow.
And those are just, those are pieces of work of art.
That's cool. So being an appraiser, I know you're seeing the values of the vehicles fluctuate, this, that, and third. I know
they go up and down.
It's just the market.
Yeah.
But let's talk about collectibles as of now.
Okay.
80s models are starting to make a turn. I remember things 60s, everything 60s. 60s this, 60s that. The 1950s, even at the time, it was 30s. But now, amazingly, you're starting to see I can just go out on a limb and say some Fieros pulling 12K,
I'll tell you,
15K.
and not just those. I mean, there's some other things too. I think a lot of it has to do with demographics, and and there's a couple dynamics. I mean, for example, this year, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the smallest high school graduation numbers in a long, long time. It's just, we're not making babies in this country like we used to. And so what happens is that now, say, following that process, now you have 30-somethings, and their kids are graduating high school. They're going off to college. And now he's thinking about, okay, I got a little extra room in the garage. What am I going to get?
Right.
Well, he grew up in the 80s.
That's true.
Or she grew up in the 80s.
Right.
They both grew up in the 80s. So now they're thinking about the car that they couldn't have when they've had their old beat-up Honda.
Back in the 80s.
And now they got an SUV, and okay, now I want that, I want that Celica.
Yeah.
Or I want that that Miata or whatever that was hot at the time.
Exactly.
So we're getting a lot of interest in the 80s, and a lot of interest in JDM. So there's that's boosted.
Yeah.
The 60s is still hot, but it tends to be an older group and they're bigger money.
That's true.
So the older they get, the more money they're willing to invest. And to some extent, I think the reality is that we'd rather have our money in real steel than in the bank.
That's true. That's true.
From
I mean, it's just tangible.
Yeah,
items.
it's like much more tangible and real. And what do they call it? Fiat money.
Fiat, right?
It's like
right.
If they don't like what they're doing, they just print more of it, and it gets inflated. So that also shows up in the cars. I mean, we went through this whole thing where Porsches were going sky high. Now that's come down a little bit. Things, what do they call it? A correction.
Yeah, it's been corrected. The market's been correcting itself.
Market correction.
It's the belch.
But and pre-war cars are much softer than they were.
Right.
When I say pre-war, I'm talking about pre-World War II. And it's funny because I went and moved away from a car that was going up in value, and then bought this 37 Packard Cabriolet, which, if you're going to buy pre-war, buy one where the top comes down, because they're always going to be more valuable. So I don't think it was a bad financial decision, but at my age, who cares?
Yeah.
I want what I want.
That's right.
And I had, over the years, traded up, got not a lot of money, but I got what I needed in order to do it.
That's great.
I'm not a wealthy man, but I know it goes back to one of the articles that I think I probably interviewed you on, and what it means to be a small collector. It's the money and the car that you want.
That is it.
That's a personal decision. The second issue you need is your spouse's comfort.
Yeah.
How many cars are you going to have?
Exactly.
And how much, how long is her car going to be outside the garage?
Exactly.
And the third thing is where to put it. And so it all comes down to those kind of decisions. And I'm just a small collector. So in this case, one had to go out when one came in. And that's the decision you made. But I don't mind it. I mean, it's already been in a couple Concourse events. And, it's probably never going to be what I would consider, a gold star winner. But the fact that it could sit there with Cords and Auburns and Lincolns and Packard Phaetons and
that's a cool thing.
I could sit on the green grass with all those guys. I don't mind.
That makes it cool
because it just fits.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
And they want that diversity. They want the big Duesenberg, but they also want the smaller.
The small collector,
the smaller collector, the smaller car that was also bobbing around those days.
Yeah, and that's cool because even at those concourse events, you get just like Cafe Martin, you get a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes be that most obscure car that's like, let me take a look at that thing. The one that you haven't seen much of. Like I mentioned earlier, the Citroen DS.
Oh wow!
You see that car, with the hydraulic suspension,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's a phenomenal, technologically advanced car for what I mean, it came out like I think it debuted in the early '70s or something like that, or in the actually late '60s.
Well, actually, I'll give a plug to some of our consignment shops. Gateway has one in their showroom.
Gateway Classic.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen one in years. It's sitting there.
Yeah,
It's not in perfect shape, but it's priced where I think someone wanted to have it. And it
yeah,
runs well.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But from a judge's point of view and an appraiser's point of view, there's a lot that would need attention on that car, particularly from a paint correction point of view. But the interior was good.
Let's touch on that.
And this is where we leave off this week.
Come on, man.
So then next week where we get into collectability and also the ins and outs of Judge and Concourse events. Until then, peace.